Welcome to ScreenJunkies universe. I think we were having a technical issue, but I believe we're live. I hope we are. Otherwise, I'm talking into a void.
And we just started.
Yeah.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Good morning.
I'm Roth Cornett. This is Spencer Gilbert.
Yes.
Andy Signor, say something amazing.
Hello, amazing
Very
people.
well. Dan Merle.
Hi.
Today we're going to talk about Game of Thrones. We're going to talk about big movies possibly coming to your home faster, and The Punisher. And the
All
Defenders.
good topics.
All
Yeah.
good
I'm also
things.
going to find out what they watched last night, because now I'm curious.
No,
What did
nothing.
everybody watch?
Nothing. I was working.
Well, that went nowhere fast. So let's talk about Game of Thrones. So some people, Dan Merle, yourself included, were a little concerned that maybe the hack would affect the ratings, or did you think that it would be fine?
Oh, I thought it'd be fine.
Yeah.
But I just hate hacks in general. They suck. It's that people just are a-holes about it, and it's awful.
Would you like to talk to the hackers on the internet
No,
directly?
because I don't want to get hacked, nor do I want them to start talking to me back. So,
if you
hacking
look in
sucks.
the void looks back. It did not affect it. It was actually one of the highest rated episodes yet. It had 10 million viewers.
Which is insane.
Which is insane, yeah. So if you guys don't know...
Spoiler alerts.
Spoiler alerts.
Dragon got colored contacts.
That could be anything, Andy. Could be...
Yeah, I guess if you haven't seen Game of Thrones
First
yet,
image
then
to throw
tune
up is a
out.
little bit of a
Tune
spoiler
out,
alert.
now.
Alrighty. So last night's episode was released accidentally 4 days early. That was actually more of a technical error than
more
a
of a
hack.
goof than
It
a
was a
hack,
goof.
yeah.
Yeah,
It
it
was
wasn't
an
really a hack. There was a hack previously, but it actually didn't heavily impact the viewership on the show.
Doesn't surprise me.
It's just that everyone that did watch it
the
started
amount of people
to
who
tweet
actually
me.
know how to hack is much lower than people realize.
Well, yeah, we talk
It's
about
a lot
these
of
things
ants and
leaking
people at home who
yeah.
don't know how to even
They don't
access
know what the
hack.
Pirate Bay is. They don't know what, all of this, like, what? The torrent? What do I, seeding? And where does it go? What button do I press? It's insane. It's a big problem, but it's not.
Because Game of Thrones has always been a pirated show regardless.
It's
It
the
was
most
one of the
pirated show
most.
ever.
And so,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I think it was some spoilers. It was more we want to control the narrative, and so that to me that was more of the question whether it was going to not get the ratings. So
Well, the
the
small
ratings
amount of
doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, the small amount of people that did see it seemed to make it their business to try and go everywhere on the internet and also tell you what was coming in the episode.
I managed to avoid spoilers. No one was an a-hole to me, but I hear that they're threatening to release the finale.
Early.
These same hackers are threatening to release the finale early. And I actually have plans this Sunday, so if you could just send it to me, you don't need to post it on the internet, just me
Right to
personally.
Spencer Gilbert.
It'd be helpful this week, but otherwise don't send it out.
If they had it, don't you think they would have released it by now?
Yeah, what is their
I don't know.
end game?
They don't have an end game.
Ransom money?
They want money.
Is that
and
what it
they
is?
keep
Is that
saying
true,
that
though?
they have
No, I
all
think
these
so.
things.
Careful, I didn't say that.
I think the end game is chaos.
Yeah,
It's just
it's just-
chaos. Right?
Fight
It's just
Club.
No,
like...
they asked for a lot of money.
Oh, they did?
Yes, they asked for a large sum
Could
of
it
money.
be chaos and money?
Sure.
Maybe, but it sounds like they're like Hans Gruber. It's like who said we were hackers? They want money. I think that's what it sounds
in
like.
order to hold it back. In
But
order to-
but HBO's not going to pay $6 million to keep episode 7 of Ballers off the internet early. So if they had the finale of Game of Thrones,
brothers need to know about ballers when it balls.
Sound like a Scoops McGee.
He's a Ballers exec producer, Scoops McGee.
I think if they had the finale of Game of Thrones, that they would have led with that and not we're releasing Rob Corddry spoilers. Look out!
So was the Twitter hack also a part of that? Just saying, like, showing sort of what they could do in order to extort.
It sounded like an
They
opportunistic
can't-
web company.
They can
Yeah.
never pay them money though, because that would just set a precedent in which they did that.
Right.
Correct.
Right. So then that would go on forever. Yeah. I mean, in any event, it's not hurting them. There was 14.2 million viewers across platforms. Most of the episodes are 29 million once you account for everything. So it's just like they kind of, it doesn't matter for them. I almost think it's a negligible impact. It only impacted me because I had to then go off social media because people were trying to tweet me. Well, not just me. That was very ridiculous.
No, but you host a
lot of
show.
people-
Yeah, people who are...
a lot of people who don't want to be spoiled, that did not read the leaks. And it's really funny. People are accusing us of having read the leaks because we happened to land on a few things that
Oh, what'd you call? What'd you predict?
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
yeah, but like, all right, actual spoilers.
Spoiler warning.
But everyone has been talking about, like, book readers ding the bell as well for years, the idea that one of the dragons may meet their end, and it would probably be Viserion.
It's a fair bet.
Yeah, it was a fair bet. Nobody read this leak.
Am I a dragonist that I don't know which dragons win?
No, we were having the same thing. I was like, I'm being very specious here, but I could not tell one dragon from the other. We had to look it up.
I mean, I know one is close
There's
to Danny.
Drogon, the big
I know
one.
Drogon
And then
and
there's
Danny.
the other two.
And so the reason
Why
that
didn't he
people
aim to the closer target that actually was the one she was on? Wouldn't that have made more sense? That was a little.
Wouldn't have looked
There was
as
a lot
cool.
of haziness in this
No, but
episode
it
if we're
was
spoiling things.
Bill's-
Playing fast and
the
loose
way
now.
the way that he killed the dragon was that he waited until the dragon was gathering fire in its throat and then threw it.
When he pierced it
And
like a
and he
Hindenburg.
pierced it like, and it would.
I just
Really?
thought he had like special poison darts.
yeah.
See, that's what I thought.
Basically exploded his throat, which does beg the question.
Oh, so he didn't need the special ice dagger. That was just a.
No, he did, because like the skin is pretty hard to penetrate, as we saw with
is.
Drogon and the scorpion.
okay.
Unless you have a
I did
really
not-
big arrow.
I did not
Yeah.
catch that.
Yeah, I didn't know that we
He
were going
Tom
to
Brady did, man.
Oh, that was a great
throw.
toss. Yeah, he'd been practicing all year.
Well, I love how
Javelin
cool and collected he is.
Oh, yeah.
All this chaos and he's just.
Well, I mean, we talked about it on Watching Thrones, but like they were clearly planning for this. The reason that the Army of the Dead hasn't overwhelmed the wall at this point is because they were waiting for someone to bring the dragon forward. And they
See-
were like, they have the chains ready, they had the ice javelin ready.
I like that
Walk
plot point.
slower.
I
Walk
like
There's
slower.
no dragons
I
yet.
like that
Walk
plot point
slower.
better of why they were there so long and the guys didn't take over. If that makes more sense if he was waiting for the
that's why they
for
had
the
the
army to
chains.
come ready.
But they had, because we first saw them walking in like at the end of season 1, like they had to have like hit the wall and they're just like, all right, guys,
back
turn
it up.
around, back it up. Tell the guy in the back to turn around.
They can all walk at a normal
Walk
pace, but
backwards
they're
and
doing
come
the
back.
thriller walk.
I just like the idea that they're
slow it.
just hitting the wall over and over again. Some people, Dan yourself included, have talked about how time works on the show.
Well, yeah, I thought that the discussion up to this point has been silly because like that's what we talk about Walking Dead all the time is like it's all walking and these people that are just like, you did not show me John's journey to Dragonstone. And you're just assuming that but you don't know how long it is between that, and they've even said like Sansa's like I haven't heard from him in weeks, so it's been weeks since he left. They're just not showing you the middle part of the journey, which is
All the
great.
waiting, right.
All the waiting, which is
Walking
awesome.
Dead points.
It's Walking Dead, exactly. This was the only time watching the show this season that I was like, okay, this is weird because it seems like in the course of one night, like 12 hours, like again, spoilers if you haven't seen it, but it's like they're on this like long trek from the wall to where they are, and they're like, Gendry, run, and like it seems like Gendry is able to run from where they are back to the wall, get to the wall. They have to send out a raven. The raven has to fly from the wall to Dragonstone where Dany is, which is not a short journey. Dany's got to get the dragons.
Change your coat.
Change your coat. Fly back up and then over the wall. And it seemed like it all happened over the course of like one night. And that was the only time this season that I was like, wow, they're really kind of cheating how fast people can get places, because for all of that to happen, it seems like that would take days.
Well, and I think it would have been solved too. They just added one more episode, and they could have had a stop
cliffhanger of them
at the cliffhanger of them frozen
Yeah.
there, and then we would have had a start of
Or
another
if it
one.
was
with
like,
some other-
You would have felt like
this is
time passed.
many
Yeah, I think-
days of them, because it essentially they were there as long as it took ice to freeze.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the whole point, is like they're waiting for the ice to freeze, and that seemed like it was like one night, and that was that was the only time I'm just like, wow, they're really kind of cheating things here to move faster because they put a timetable on it.
Well, I will say that a lot of fans are communicating with us in particular. I don't know if you see these things, but saying, stop worrying about the time, stop talking about it. It doesn't matter. Let it go. It's just enjoy the show. But Alan Taylor is aware, who was the director of this episode, and he had something to say about it. This is a lengthy quote.
Yes, it is.
We were aware that the timing was getting a little hazy. We've got Gendry running back. We've got ravens flying a certain distance, dragons having to fly back a certain distance. In terms of the emotional experience for John and company, we sort of spent one dark night on the island in terms of storytelling moments. We tried to hedge it a little bit with the eternal twilight up there north at the wall.
Like the sun doesn't set.
North of the wall, but I think that there's some effort to fudge the timeline a little bit by not declaring exactly how long we were there. I think that worked for some people, for other people it didn't. They seem to be very concerned with how fast a raven can fly, but there's a thing called plausible impossibilities, which is what you try to achieve rather than impossible plausibilities. So I think we were sustaining plausibility a little bit, but I hope that the story's momentum carries over some of that
That's
stuff.
annoying. I don't like that quote.
Yeah, no, that I call bullshit on that, because that's literally the director going like, I don't care.
Yeah, whoops.
Like, but it's like, but you have to, and it's. If you're going in and you're like, well, no one's gonna buy this, but whatever. Like, to me, that's like, but you can fix those things. Like you
Well,
can
they
establish
tried.
that they were there for longer.
I do appreciate that they tried. Whether I don't agree with all, but they even if you watch the behind the scenes at the end, they sort of try and explain some of those rush timelines. But it felt like they were in a room and they did at least try and answer those questions.
But
Yeah,
like, just give
they
your
did.
characters a chance to do something cool instead of letting like a coincidence or an impossibility rescue them. Like you could have
Yeah, it's the
done
Eagles all over
It's
again.
the Eagles. Let the characters get themselves out of the jam, or at least prolong it long enough for Danny to show
I would
up.
have
Yeah.
I would have been fine with the fast forwarding through the Raven and all that stuff. What's his name? Gendry running back to me was sort of the last straw and an already
oh my God, like,
heavy
how fast can
of
he run?
things.
And how long has he
No,
been
sorry, not
running?
Gendry. What's the guy who
was
saves
Gendry.
Jon Snow? Who saves Jon Snow?
Oh yeah, and the cold hands comes out
Cold
of
Hands
nowhere.
comes out.
Vengeance.
Vengeance, sorry.
Yeah.
That
Deus
was
Ex, Cold Hands.
even
yeah.
Gendry running, which was a little annoying because it was like clearly they're not that far from the wall, so that's which also was telling. But Cold Hands coming back and saving him again, like this is miraculous. Like I'm gonna kill all these zombies, get
Cold
through,
Hands is
and then
coming.
saves them, and then goes back and immediately gets taken by them. It was just like it was way too convenient for me. I don't know. I wish they didn't have. I just wanted Jon Snow to escape. With them, it would have been much
It
more
would have been a
plausible to
lot
me
more, yeah.
than that whole like cheating in the water and he gets out and then he gets saved. It was just like
Like that answer that Alan Taylor gives, that reminds me of just like, because Game of Thrones has been so meticulously plotted up to this point, and it's like you're following every step of these things, maybe to a fault. I think last season was too much plotting and you got to know too much, but like this thing of just like, yeah, well, whatever, it's implausible, but it doesn't matter. The story, that reminds me of when Lost was coming to an end, and like, they set up all these puzzle boxes for the first however many seasons, and then like their answer to someone was like, some questions were never meant to be answered. It's like, no, you did that. I didn't do that. You're the one that set that puzzle. And then to be like, yeah, whatever. It's a mystery. That's what it was always meant to be. I'm like, no, it's not. You just ran out of ideas and answers and couldn't figure out how to make this puzzle fit. Like, you can't just hand wave it away.
Yeah, I guess the phrase plausible impossibilities is bullshit.
Calling
That's a
shenanigans
complete
on that.
oxymoron, yeah.
Well, what's amazing about us having the internet available to us is that there have been people doing some bird law investigations of their own. Thank you, internet. We
Bird
knew,
charts.
Yes.
we knew that we could count
Nice
on you.
cropped Always Sunny promo image.
I know, but he specializes in bird law, guys.
Yes.
So there are some people. I got this tweet, and the tweet actually said, like, I don't actually know if this is accurate, but here you go. So I'm going to read the math that somebody made up. The
Okay.
Suicide Squad, the Snowicide Squad.
Anonymous Twitter source.
Yeah, exactly. We're just saying that someone has presented this evidence. We leave it to you to investigate. Obviously didn't travel very far from the wall because the storm and the giant dead polar bear took a lot of their time. Assuming that Gendry is running for his life, he can make it back in 5 to 8 hours. It was still morning when they left the camp, and it's dark when Gendry arrives at the wall. The distance from the wall to Dragonstone is 2,500 kilometers. Kilometers. I don't know how to do that math because I'm an American. I'm so sorry. The Raven can fly at 80 kilometers per hour. A Raven flight time would be 32 hours.
So 32 plus 5 to 8.
So Dragon's flight
An hour at
speed.
40 hours.
This is the amazing part. I was like, they actually worked out the Dragon flight speed. Compared with running humans on previous episodes is 90. So dragon flight time would be 28 hours. The total travel time is 82 hours or 3.4 days. Ice requires a thickness of 10 centimeters to hold the crowd. Time for 10 centimeters of ice to form is 3 days. So it works.
I would like to see some sources. Yeah, I would like to see.
Where do you get those numbers
First of all,
from?
time for
presenting the
ice to
facts of the
freeze to
internet.
form at negative 10 degrees Celsius.
eternal twilight, guys.
But again, okay, 3 days. So they survived without shelter in the worst,
yeah.
most inhospitable storm for 3.4
Do we
days.
think-
It
Well,
just
not all
seems-
of them. One of
if
them
they did,
croaked.
that's fine. But just
He
don't
was
make
injured.
it again. Like you could clarify that very easily. But it just
been
seemed like
3
they were just
days.
like, oh, whatever, no one's gonna care. And it's like, no, but they do care. That
Well,
just
it's weird
shows a
too, 'cause
very casual attitude.
I feel like they have Lord of the Light. They have all these sort of fudgy things that you could have
Yeah.
just had someone see a site or Bran pass the message to someone to say, I have a feeling I need to go save
Bran doesn't
John.
wanna talk
Or like
to
Like there were
anybody.
moments you could have done that would have justified why she left earlier. And I feel like the dragon could have just, John saves himself and kills somebody, and then the dragon on his own accord grabs John, which would have been a more nice telling moment for Danny to be like, oh wow, okay, even my dragon likes you. Like there could have been moments to not make it so full of.
Well, what's interesting, do we find it interesting that we are all thinking, well, two things. One,
We like the show because we're over.
Oh, I love the show. It's just this is the
creative
first
dialogue.
time it's felt like they're kind of taking their fan base for granted. That's the only thing.
So there's two. I have two questions for us. One,
I think they want to get
somebody
out,
asked-
and they're like, "Well, we got to get to them.
We got to get to them, right?
We have 7. What is it? 7 or 8?
Well, they have
Seven.
one,
Seven
one
and
left,
6, right?
And, then,
And they clearly, in
six.
promos, it's like we have to see them together and finally acknowledge this because they clearly want to spend the last season taking on the Night King. So
Yeah.
it to me, it just screamed of, we have a point.
fast forward.
We got to fast forward and get to it, otherwise it'll never get done.
I think that this is them facing the idea that there were lots of complaints in previous seasons that things were dragging on too long and they were taking over long with certain storylines or stretching storylines that didn't necessarily need to be there in order, and weren't even in some of the books, in order to keep characters present.
Like, don't listen to that when you're the biggest, most beloved show on television.
Sure.
Like, why would you change based on Trolls
Right, I
when
think
everybody's watching and loving your
It's
show?
also strange to me because I don't believe HBO, who knows, but I don't believe HBO wouldn't have thrown some more money on to get more content from them.
Sure, but then they've
So it's
condensed.
like you could have easily put in another half hour or something, right?
One more episode this season would not have hurt.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying that I think they're in the midst of discovering that the timing, the pacing of this show didn't hit. Some people felt it was overlong previously. It's too slowly paced previously. Some people are feeling that it's too quickly paced now. I mean, they're kind of in a double bind, and I do feel for them in that sense.
I think there's a nice middle ground they could be walking. This was way too fast, and then if you go back, there are ones that are way too slow. I feel like they had been moving at a pretty good speed this season, and then suddenly this came in and was like,
Right. No, I'm all for impossible plausibilities, but I mean, there comes a point where it becomes distracting.
At
Like,
the same time, as a viewer, it was very satisfying because I'm like, finally, yes, let's see this. It's
Yes,
finally
dragon
happening.
fighting.
the great thing about the show is when things like that happen, like the great thing about the Red Wedding and the Battle of the Bastards and all of that, is you can go back and in previous episodes and look at how all these pieces fell together, and like those big payoffs are great because you saw those forces, whether you knew it or not, coming together and converging, and then you pay off with these huge moments. Like, that's what makes Game of Thrones so great. And this was the first time that everything felt to me a little manufactured. And you know, it's not that I love the show still. I can't wait. And like, it's just like, this was the first time, even with all the other complaints this season, the first time to me it felt like they were cheating a little bit. And I just hope they don't do that for the sake of we have to rush and get there, because people will people have infinite patience for this show. I think they've proven that. Like, even the slowest of last year, people were still on board. Viewership didn't drop. You know, they should just do what they want to do. You know, don't feel like you have to do impossible plausibilities.
Yeah.
Impossibility. So why did somebody asked why we thought Viserion would be the one that would die of the dragons? And the reason is because he's named after her a-hole brother. The other were like, people think that Jon's going to ride the dragon that's named after his dad.
Yeah.
And that Daenerys has Drogon.
R.I.P. one huge fan theory, which was the Tyrion, Jon, Dany, three-headed dragon
see.
riding
see.
a dragon
We'll see.
thing.
There's still time.
Yeah, but see,
There's-
why not have Jon Snow get saved by the other dragon? That would have been cool. Wouldn't that have been a better escape? If Dany's
I thought the
dragon
other dragon
left,
was going to let him
and then
jump
suddenly
on. Yeah.
you think Jon's gonna die, you get your little cheat moment,
that
and then
would've been
suddenly
good.
the other dragon grabs him
Because
and
I-
flies off, and then that impresses Dany, like, oh wow, my dragon, and then because you need that moment of Dany being like, I can't believe he survived. This guy, I didn't realize I missed this guy. Like, it would have been less of a cop out. It would have told a story point, which is implying that dragon. Maybe they don't want to go there, but that's right.
I think they don't wanna go there yet.
I wish they would have. I don't know.
Oh,
If
they
they're
should
gonna
just
fast
go
forward,
there.
that would have been a better moment for me, and a oh shit moment versus
Yeah, the second
Come on.
person drowning who is not really drowning,
Yes,
even
it's
though
like,
they're wearing like
don't
full
do that
armor and
anymore,
fur.
stop
No
it.
more fake drowns. No more fake
Those
drowns.
convenient pools that are just
I already did the plausible impossibility thing with Bronn underwater dragging Jaime for
Lannister
a
in
mile
full plate armor.
and surfacing like a mile from the battle. Okay, that's your plausible impossibility quota for the. And I said fine. I'm not going to say anything. That's all right.
They've also got to look. I know the dragons are a threat, but this is twice now the dragons have almost been taken out in like the 2 attempts.
Yeah.
2 attempts of dragon battles. The first one he almost got taken
But
down.
they've
And now the
literally
second
killed
one.
2 armies. Like,
Fair.
it's a good trade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a fair.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Good value on those dragons.
Moving on. We're going to do a whole other thing. I think Spencer and I maybe later in this week about kind of being written into a corner in some respects in terms of like, this is a series based on defying tropes, but at a certain point you can't defy the tropes unless you're going to betray the story.
Yeah, less of a recap, more of a review.
More of a, yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. So lots to talk about with Game of Thrones, as we can see 23 minutes later, but we also want to talk about the idea that you may be able to get Blockbuster films within 30 days of their release.
It's like going to the hotels.
According to THR, insiders say that Comcast, Apple, and Amazon are actively working together to create a delivery system called Premium Video
That's
on
terrifying.
Demand.
That monopoly.
Yeah,
right there.
that idea should excite me, but the idea of all of them working together scares me.
They're also working to make sure that they implement anti-piracy measures. The idea is basically they want to have multiple platforms doing this so that it's saturation in the marketplace, and that within 30 to 45 days of a big film like a Spider-Man Homecoming gets released, you could have it in your home on one of these platforms for $30. They have to get at least 3 studios on board. Disney's probably, which is the big one, is not on board just yet. Is not yet part of the equation.
I think this will totally hurt the theater experience.
Well, of course it will, but
absolutely,
I think
without a doubt.
It's interesting because the studios initially said they wanted to get the theaters on board and theater owners on board, but they're now less concerned, and I think it has to do with the low box office. And I feel like they're just trying to fight for their own survival at this point and figure out what's going to work.
What possible anti-piracy measure could they take of like streaming something into your home? What's stopping them? Is there going to be like an Amazon employee just standing in the corner, like put that phone down,
put that camera away,
Right.
filming the TV?
If it's on your TV, you can pirate it.
Sure.
It's true.
Yeah.
There's literally no way to stop people from pirating movies off of their television.
No, there isn't. So what would they do? I don't know.
Nothing. They would have
They
to.
need a person or a death robot that comes with it. Like
Well,
in
but
there with a gun.
It's the same
pointed at
problem
you.
of having it on Blu-ray, whatever. Once it's sort of on home release, it's
all
unlocked
bets are
and anyone can
They,
sort
well,
of
they
get
can't
it.
stop anybody from pirating it on their phone, but how many people want to view? You can take sort of measures online once it's online, and 2, how many people really want to view something that way? Something that was taped from a TV on a phone.
Remember what we were
but
saying
my-
earlier about hackers?
Yeah.
Well, my point is though, but they still do it. Is what I'm trying to get at, and they still sell Blu-rays.
Yeah.
And they still sell iTunes downloads. Like there are people who are nice and don't want to steal the content. I still think this is more of a conversation about the theater experience.
Yes.
Because going to a movie with a kid, it costs $45 to go just to get the freaking tickets nowadays.
Yeah.
So like everything else, you're paying $50 to go to
Parking.
the theater. So for families, which is a huge part of the movie going experience, that's why every movie is PG-13. They're not gonna go unless it's a really big movie. I think obviously there'll be big theater experiences, which maybe is maybe an interesting way to do it. Maybe more indie films would get seen this way. Who knows?
Well, I don't even
But
think it's
I just think that's gonna put a dent into that.
You're not going to pay. I don't think indie films are even part of this kind of conversation, because indie films a lot of times are available day and date, or sometimes they're available even before the theatrical release and you're not probably going to pay the $30 for an indie film. But if you turn on, your Amazon and there's something there that you've heard something about and it's like $6, you might do that. I do that all the time and watch a lot of indie films at home. But for something like a Spider-Man, if you do the math and you don't want to take yourself and your child and your partner and but you could do it for $30 a month later, a lot of people may take that option.
Well, I think we talked about this with MoviePass last week, which is this again is another situation where the theater chains are over a barrel because they can fight this all they want. But if the studios and Amazon and Comcast, and Apple decide they want to do this, then they can. And the AMC and these exhibitors and theater chains are going to be put in a position where this huge conglomerate now, this monopoly of studios and distributors are going to come to them and say, like, we're doing this. Do you want a cut of this or not? And if you don't take a cut of this, you're probably going to be out of business. And they're going to have to take whatever deal they get. That's the danger when you get all of these forces teaming up, is they can go to another side of there's not a negotiation, because it's like,
No, it's true.
Do
And
you want to take a cut that's small, or do you want to go out of business?
Well, and AMC is one of those companies too, though, where I think the studios have always been sort of afraid of losing the AMC share of, oh crap, but if they can crack how to do it digitally and still make the money, then AMC is up shit's creek, because it's like, we don't need you actually.
Right.
We just had a conversation with I just had a conversation with our producer though, and he said, he's saying he hasn't seen Dunkirk yet. And if he had this option, he may choose this option to see Dunkirk. And it's interesting to me because Dunkirk is as an example.
I'm in the same
movie,
boat. I would have done the same thing.
But you have to see
that
this
movie
movie in
is
IMAX.
meant to be seen in a theater.
In IMAX.
No,
Like,
but it's subverting what the filmmaker wanted.
Yeah, but
it's
not
a,
only
it's a
that,
bit
but
of
the
disrespect.
Yeah, but I'm just not. I'm not excited by the subject matter. I guess is where the difference is. Like, there's respect to the filmmaker. I'm going to still see the movie, but it's like, come on, Nolan. Sorry, I'm not dropping that much money to go see it in the theater. I'm not that interested in seeing another war movie that I've seen a million
actually
times.
worth
seeing
paying
in IMAX.
like he's actually one of the few people that's doing this IMAX thing correctly.
And it's the best.
Tell a good story then.
The best part.
That's another subject.
One of the better parts of the film is the filmmaking, and you can really only
You can
experience
still see that on a big TV. It's not the
cannot.
same.
It's not even close to the
It's not the
even
same,
close
but with
to
a
the
good
same.
TV and sound system, you can still.
Well, I
not
can just say,
even
if
close.
I
there
watched
was
The Revenant at home, and it was fantastic. It wasn't as good as theater experience,
Yeah, it was great in
but it's
the theater.
another similar movie of like I still really enjoyed it at home.
If these theater chains are relying on gigantic Nolan movies to keep them alive and to appeal to like diehard film
Yeah,
nerds,
exactly.
they're screwed. Like
No, they are, but this is the
They're clearly
downside
screwed.
of the system is I think this is going to cause a lot of problems because I will promise you that Christopher Nolan is not going to want to sign on to have one of his movies available 30 days at home in a theater. He's going to say, no, screw you. I made this in IMAX. I made this in 70 millimeter. I did not make this for you to send to a home theater 30 days after it came out. And like this is a big can of worms. And there's a lot of
gonna
stuff.
change everything.
There's
I
a lot
agree.
of stuff they're going to have to figure out because there are going to be filmmakers that are going to say like, no, I didn't make this for people to watch at home. Home video is a necessary evil, but if you're going to cut the legs out from under me,
Well, but
I'm
I
not
look
on
at
board.
music as an example. Like before Spotify and all this thing, iTunes did have a monopoly on pretty much all of the digital music, and it became everything. You had your iPod and you wanted your music, you had to have it through iTunes. Whether you bought it through them or not, it was still the program you had to sort of use to sync everything together. And so I think Apple is smartly trying to get in on that now. But it doesn't mean it's going to be the only person. There's going to be some other entity that's going to crack through. We're always going to change the way we are delivered the content. But I do think this, for me, like Pitch Perfect 3 and Grey Showman are two perfect examples of, I don't know if I need to see those in the theater.
So there's talking about this.
Do I wait a month and see them on home?
This could happen as soon as January,
Yeah.
and your point is great because these are late. These are sort of the holiday movies that you could potentially be able to then do for this experience. But I'm going to ask you this: if you're not going to pay the money to go see that in the theater, are you going to pay $30 to see Pitch Perfect 3 at home?
I paid that anyway, buying two tickets.
yeah, as here in LA, if you want to
Yeah.
pay, what theaters need to do, I don't want to make it seem like I'm on the side of theaters. Theaters bear a lot of culpability in this and the fact that most theaters do a really crappy job of being movie theaters. They don't, a lot of them do not adjust their projectors properly. The movies are not projected properly. They don't enforce their rules. I can't tell you how many movies I've been to that I have to get up and tell people to stop texting. Yes, I'm that guy. I have to get up and tell people to stop texting because it's ruining the experience.
pay a lot of
And
money
they
to
don't-
see a
and they
movie,
pay a lot
exactly.
of money, and you don't have people
Yeah.
there enforcing those rules. And a lot of times going to a movie is a really miserable experience. You talked about The Revenant. It was the worst movie going experience of my life because I had to tell the guy next to me 3 times, and then there was a guy in the front row holding his phone up during the movie that I had to go down.
Meanwhile,
and ask
I was
him,
watching in my
"Ask
living
him to
room.
stop texting."
I was in my living room, comfy, lights out,
fur on the
enjoying
This
it.
guy, this guy took a selfie with Flash during the movie.
Did he take a selfie of himself watching the movie?
Yes.
Okay,
and,
that is
and it's like
magnificent.
and this is at one of LA's premium theater chains too. And the idea of just like even there, just like if you see something wrong, come and tell us. And it's like no. So if I see something wrong, I have to get up, I have to walk out of the movie, I have to go find somebody, I have to come back and
missing
sit
the
down
movie.
and wait for you to miss the movie. It's like no, if these theaters, so many people don't go to the movies now because going to the movies is
They
a
need like
crappy
emergency
experience.
buttons.
What?
You need someone
What?
sitting
Yeah.
in the
Like
theater.
Yeah, like
Snitch
a-
buttons.
Snitch buttons.
Yeah.
I realize that it's a lot of money, but you need to have someone sitting in the theaters enforcing this stuff because
Yeah.
no one is doing it.
Like on a plane though, you could just have a
Yeah,
button to
flight
call
attendant
flight
button.
attendant. I also like the idea.
And it's like
of
you
the
probably, if you see
selfie.
3 buttons, 3 lights go off, they know to actually send someone in.
Was he just like watching bear rape? Like what,
Oh, right,
what was
Revenant.
that? Revenant. How'd we get to rape again? God damn it!
I mean, it didn't
It was
really rape them at all in the movie. You're kind of bringing that to the Revenant.
No,
but,
people said that. People
Well,
said
they were
that
wrong.
was a big thing
It
when the
wasn't.
Revenant came out.
It wasn't. but-
Hashtag bear rape. It was a thing.
No, do not hashtag that.
It was a thing.
It was not a thing.
It was a
If you watch the
thing.
movie,
No, not in the film.
It was
People talked
reported
about it before.
beforehand.
Thank
People
you.
But don't
Didn't pay
forget,
attention to it.
changing subject. Don't forget, it's not only expensive, but when you have a kid and you can't go see The Revenant with your kid because of what
Yeah.
you just said, the hashtag, you have to pay for the babysitter. You have to do it's a very expensive night at the movies to go, and I think the $30 price tag is going to be very attractive to a lot of
Ken.
this
groups.
is inevitable. This is definitely inevitable. You know, I'm just thinking like I think a lot of these studios think like, oh, okay, once we crack this and make the deal, we'll be done. And I think they're going to encounter a lot more problems than they think they're going to because there are a lot more parties that are going to get involved with this thing than I think even they are.
But to the other flip of the coin, it's like if it makes them money and it works, then they're going to be happy and it'll continue. If it doesn't and they see declines in the theater and they need to go make theaters a new thing again, then that'll be telling too. Maybe that will force theaters to up their game to be more friendly and more worthy of going out to the theater experience. So we'll see what happens.
we're gonna
Because I'm
wrap
also
it-
curious. I think it's also going to turn into the movies that are out currently for $100. Like they're just
Yeah.
going to prorate the amount of money of what you want.
I don't think it'll be $100, but I think we could. They were talking about in previous business models, 50. And I do think it could get to that point as well. So we're going to wrap it up here in a minute. We were going to talk about The Punisher. We'll leave that for later. Ken says, preach it, Andy. Convenience beats quality. That's why McDonald's is a global phenomenon.
yeah, because McDonald's is
Yeah,
such
we
great
all
food
want
and fine
McDonald's
dining.
all
He
the
just
time.
said it
Sadly,
wasn't quality.
yeah,
He just said it wasn't
There's
quality.
room for both.
And then a lot of people, and this is the last thing that we'll talk about, are saying this is why they want the option of MoviePass, which is interesting to me because the combination of MoviePass and an option like this, to me, feels like within 3 to 5 years could really be the thing where we see the downfall of theaters entirely. Not entirely, they'll still be there. I just think they'll be there in a very different manner than they currently are. Or could MoviePass weirdly be the thing to save it? I mean, but it's a financial model that doesn't ultimately work.
Yeah.
I think there's
So-
two types of theaters. There's the cheapo theater that you go to, and it's like the fourth rate week, and you
Mom
get
and
it
pop,
matinee
yeah.
price. Like those should still be around. And then there's the premium theaters that should have.
And I also think there's
theater-going
room for like the
experiences.
interesting ones, like the Alamo Draft House or the
Yeah.
New Beverly that
Yep.
does just
Specialty.
especially
yeah.
they cater to people who like film.
But I think there's too many theaters now. Even AMC, there's the Pacific theaters too. Like they all theater chains like ArcLight here in LA and other ones like all started charging $16. You can reserve your seat. There's a bar. Blah blah blah.
Someone's eating a lobster bisque next
Someone's
to you.
exactly. It's like they're providing these theater experiences, which I get. But then all of the other chains all said, "Oh, they're charging that much. We're going to charge that much too." And it's like, but you need a seat and a place to buy popcorn and a projector.
And
that's
popcorn's
well-calibrated.
way overpriced
Popcorn's
already.
way overpriced, and I think every chain is now selling a movie-going experience at $16 a ticket. Which
Yeah.
I not every movie theater experience is worth $16.
But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out in the end. I will say that as much as I advocate for something like seeing a movie that is meant to be seen in IMAX, in my IMAX, and where it really does make a difference, Logan Lucky was a movie this weekend that I didn't feel good. I was watching The Defenders. I didn't want to get off my couch. I was just not feeling well. I would have watched it at home.
I totally agree.
If it had been on VOD, I absolutely, and I
agree.
probably would have paid like $8 for it
Yep.
at home.
I'm in that boat all the time, especially
Yeah.
with a kid and you can't go out, or my wife doesn't want to see the movie and we don't. It's like a whole annoying thing of like I would upgrade and pay a little bit more to see something quicker.
At home, yeah, especially a movie like that where it's like, I mean, this is a different scenario, but where you don't have to see that in the theater in order to get
No,
as
and I
much as you
mean
can out of
those
the
movies
experience.
may benefit from this system. I just it's just going to be a barrel full of monkeys because especially if Disney doesn't come on board because
That
then all
sounds
the other
super
studios
fun.
are going to be like, why is my movie in 30? But Disney's like, no, screw you. You have to
Yeah.
wait 4 months for our movies, and now the studios will be like, well, they get an advantage.
launching
Now
their own
more people
streaming
are
Well,
going
and
to
they're
get
going to have it on their own streaming service, so that might be a whole other can of worms.
We
that-
did tease it. Can we just show the picture of the Punisher
let's
before
talk
we go?
about-
Because I
let's look
think
at
he
the
looks
Punisher real
really
quick.
badass. I'm in.
And
Wow, that was an
Wow.
abrupt turn.
Yeah. He's got like
Yeah,
a
there's the Punisher.
C cup there.
We teased it. I was just trying to
Oh,
wrap
he
it in
it
time.
does look
Does
like
look like
he's-
a bra to me.
It looks like a bra.
I'm on board with this.
Do you think
I
it looks
that
like
we've-
a girdle type, he's about to do burlesque?
I think it might be the lighting.
Yeah,
That's part of
He's
it.
got a lot of dirt in his face too.
He does have a lot of dirt.
Well,
on
look,
Makeup to-
I think it looks awesome. The teaser that I saw, but with the hammering thing, is he gonna hammer his logo in after every kill? Because that's a lot of work. It's gonna like boom, like do the whole. He did the whole skull thing in the ground with a hammer.
It's like Batman setting the flames
I
on
was
fire.
thinking
Or
like Ben
Daredevil,
Affleck's
like,
Daredevil,
yeah.
meticulously putting lighter fluid down after every crime.
A lot of post production to any mission you go on is hammering your logo into the ground.
Yeah.
I loved him. I'm excited to see this series. It'll be interesting. Do you guys watch?
I'm glad because Iron
Defenders?
Fist won't be in it.
I haven't
so.
finished it.
Oh my god.
Punisher, so
Iron
that'll help a
Fist.
lot.
I had my first exposure to Iron Fist this weekend on Defenders.
You didn't watch the show.
I didn't watch Iron Fist.
Oh, then you must be so confused.
No,
right?
not really. It was pretty
okay.
easy
No, me
to
neither.
Really?
translate
Okay.
what was going on. Like, he's the worst.
Yep, he really
Like,
throws the
he's
shit him.
awful. And
That's
the Defenders was
Iron Fist is
all...
literally that for the whole
The Defenders
show.
was all about how much he sucked.
Yeah, I
and
like
was
that they hang a lantern on it because like that's what I assumed going in, and they admit it.
Yeah, they did, but then it got annoying because it was like, without spoiling too much, it's like there was a thing that only he could do that wasn't supposed to happen. And in my head, I was like, this guy sucks so much. I bet they're gonna stupidly trick him into doing something, and they did. I was like, how stupid are you? You are the biggest moron. And he's like, I'm gonna save this city. I'm like, no, you're not. You and your stupid Batman voice. You're not gonna save anything.
He's the
He was
worst.
awful.
They
He's
should
the worst.
Make him a heel turn. That'd be good.
Yeah.
I just don't want
Iron
any more
Heel.
standalone shows.
I
with
see
him.
how angry people were now when Iron Fist came out last year. Because I was like, yeah, this guy sucks.
Well, because his partner, I forget the names, but she's great. I liked her.
Yeah, she was awesome. I was like,
Colleen
keep-
Wing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kinda
keep
like-
cutting to her.
She's
She was
great.
great.
I almost wish she was Iron
she could
Fist.
fight.
Like, I wish they would have
She
rewritten the character.
Was a
Like,
better actor.
There's a million ways it could have gone.
yeah.
that I
She's
wish.
one of the Sand Snakes, the one with the whip.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
And he was the Knight of
and
Flowers.
he was
Loras
Loras.
Tyrell.
Little Game of Thrones thing. I liked him better on Thrones and her better there.
Louis Tan should have been Iron Fist 100,000,000%.
Well,
There we go.
you
We
have
did
an
it.
amazing honest trailer to look forward to, which I believe
you
should
didn't
be
watch. I
available
don't even
right
know if it
now.
went up.
We
I gotta
came
go
back
check.
around to Game of Thrones at the end. I didn't even
Yeah, we
realize.
did. But you guys should
check
definitely
out
watch this.
Michael
And-
Bolton, Brian McKnight, Paula Cole,
yeah, right.
Natasha
Is
Bedingfield.
it
They
live?
all showed up.
I don't
It's
know.
going to be in any minute, so
Yeah.
check it out.
Check it out. There's lots of good. And
Wish
then
us luck.
these guys are going to be talking about how they pulled that
Yep,
off.
stay tuned for watching that commentary live here on the channel soon.
Yeah, like in 10 minutes even.
What?
If
We'll
maybe.
see what's I
We'll
gotta go
see.
check.
Well, I heard a rumor, but sometimes they're not true. Lots of great things this week. We have movie fights on Thursday at 4.
Yep.
We have TV fights today right here on SJ News,
At
also
4.
at 4. And then Flickbait at
Friday
4.
at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. See you guys then.
Me and this guy talk about with the wonderful Michelle Boyd about crazy Game of Thrones.
At 11.
At 11. It's at 10 on Saturday.
Oh, that thing. Yeah.
That
yeah.
thing. And there's some other great stuff coming up. So please do stay tuned. Thanks for sticking with us. Let us know what you think in the comments below and be excellent to each other.